rights. We've talked about the rights of domestic workers. We've talked about the amendments in the Employment Act, and that was, of course, in the bill that was tabled this year, 2022, by Ms. Agnes Kunihira. We've also talked about some of the things that you need to know about these amendments, and some of the biggest highlights, including the Social Protection Fund involvement for the domestic workers, and then as well as protection of these workers when it comes to pay and other regulations. As we wind up, Ms. Sylvia, we want to talk about the other part. For example, we've seen the migrant workers as well being involved in this bill. The amendment says that the Employment Act of 2006 lacks comprehensive provisions that are regulating recruitment, employment, and monitoring of migrant workers. What does it have in this case for the migrant workers?
Thank you. In terms of the migrant workers, like you rightly said, that the bill seeks to ensure that an act of parliament has provisions relating to this program of externalization of labor. As you are aware right now, the biggest, in terms of legislation, we are using what we call a subsidiary law. We are using a regulation for the program, because I think the understanding then was that labor externalization will be temporary measure as the government sorts out the issue of unemployment among its population. But I think overall, labor migration should not be looked at as a temporary measure. Whether it's temporary or what, in whatever form it is, we should have a proper legislation or proper provisions within an act of parliament. So what this bill 6, or what I read, is to try to get provisions from the regulations and put them into an act of parliament. So provisions are actually here. That amendment, they're looking at two kinds of migrants. They're looking at those that are arriving in Uganda, but also looking at the Ugandans who are departing, going to work abroad. Because even as a country, we also host migrant workers. People come. They are Kenyans, they are Tanzanians, they are people from Malaysia, and they are Chinese working here. All those are migrant workers in the country. The question is, how are they treated? Do we even know? Media, interest yourselves. Do you even know how those migrants working in Uganda are being treated?
We only know the ones in Baby Yumba.
We only speak about those that have gone out of this country. Definitely. But who knows that maybe even those that are arriving in Uganda are equally being treated the same way? Maybe because these ones are not domestic workers, they are in other sectors. Maybe, but the treatment could also be worse. We don't know. There are times when I see when the Directorate of Immigration and Citizenship, they are making operations where they are arresting people whom they are calling illegal immigrants, that they are here without proper documentation. Those could be victims of, there could be migrant workers who are victims of trafficking in person, that some people bring them here, after working, they dump them, and then they even tip off perhaps officials from the directorate and say, these people are here, you come and take them out as illegal immigrants. So we need to think through as well, to interest ourselves to know how are the rights of the people who are arriving here in Uganda being treated. How is it easy for a person to get a work permit in Uganda, for example, even just within the East African community? We have the East African Common Market Protocol on free movement of labor within the region. But one of the challenges has been that the issue and the need for work permits, whether you are coming from Uganda, going to go to Kenya, or Kenyan is arriving working in Uganda. So these are some of those things that maybe this particular amendments should actually be interested themselves into, although they did not actually provide so much about it, because when I looked into the bill, where they are only talking about employers who are employing migrant workers working in Uganda, they should keep records. They have to give annual returns with the labor officer of the area to inform them of how many migrant workers they have, foreigners in terms of one or two Ugandans. The discussion has also been that should we treat fellow East Africans as migrant workers, or those are not migrant workers. But in other East African legislation, labor legislations, as long as you're not a Kenyan or you're not a Tanzanian or Rwandese, you are a migrant worker. So I don't know if Uganda want to be any different in this East African community. So that is also there. So yes, the bill is telling the employer to keep records, file annual returns, ensure that the person whom they are employing, they have the proper documentation, the permits that allow them to be able to work here. But I did not see. There's a time when the parliamentarians, sometimes they forget in some of their debates how they were arguing that people should not employ or bring in workforce that we already have readily available here. In other words, the local jobs, formerly created jobs, are being taken away again by foreigners. But I've not seen it in the bill. For example, I could critique it from that angle. They have not said maybe for a person to employ a foreigner, you should show they should be certified or cleared maybe by the Ministry of Gender Employment Services, and say we don't have such skills that you're looking to recruit from outside the country. Something of that sort, but they have forgotten quickly when they had that discussion in Parliament. But this should be the right time as well to look into that going forward. But then the provisions that the bill is proposing on the Ugandan migrant workers that are going to work abroad is basically on ensuring that the recruitment companies that are recruiting are licensed, they are recruiting people with the right qualifications, they're recruiting pushing its responsibility to the private sector that government needs to take over. And by the way, let me tell you, I've always argued this, and I can still argue it. And I've not only argued it here, I've argued it even before with members of parliament, but also with the representative from the Ministry of Gender. And I said the externalization of the labor program is one of those programs that is self-financing, even for the government to put in monitoring systems. They can even charge it in the recruitment fees that are paid by the employer. If for example, right now, there's $100 for medical examination, I don't know how much money for training and what, they can inbuilt in $100 for monitoring purposes. And just imagine, quick math, if we externalize 10,000 Ugandans every year, times $100, how much is that? Just $1 billion. How much is that in Ugandan shillings? Isn't it enough to recruit labor attaches and facilitate them for them to be able to monitor on the government side? I mean, that has been that is my sole opinion, and I take responsibility for it. But that is an argument that I've always made, that it is possible. We don't even need to go into the government coffers to get this money.
Age limit on the mates. That's another thing we haven't talked about. You talked about the young ones, but also the older ones who should actually be living at a certain moment when things really are out of hand, and they've been with the family for over 40 years, and they feel even so attached, and the family itself want to hold on to them, but age. So what are some of the provisions for age limit on this bill?
Age limit, the bill.
I know age limit. When you talk about age limit in Uganda, it's a big discussion.
We should be very careful.
But I know, right?
But yes. In terms of the workforce, I think the age limit is very clear. 60 years. Once a month of 60 years. That is like the retirement age, ideally. Now, for one to enter into the domestic work sector is where we are saying, where for us as an organization, we are saying this person should be 18 years and above. Why? Because domestic work is one of the worst forms of child labor. Why is it characterized that way? Because it involves manual labor. It involves long working hours. You can't measure how many hours a domestic worker works. There are also other it is also work that exposes, if it's a child, to other abuses. For example, in most cases, when you see people being beaten, the many that are beaten, they are actually their children, you know, in the ages of 17, you know, those young ones, they are easily assaulted, physically assaulted. It also exposes them to other abuses like sexual harassment, the emotional abuse. For them to be able to understand that I am doing work, that when I am not given meat and I'm told to eat grains, okay, I should not steal the meat, because then it exposes the children to moral decadence if he's a child, because we say that as long as work affects the moral development of a child, of that child, it's child labor. If a child is doing domestic work, can they also go to school?
No.
They don't go to school. So anyone that puts away a child from school, if they are of school going age, then it's also child labor. So we are saying the law should, actually the bill has been silent. What they have done is that they have moved the age of 14, they want it to 16 as per the constitution. But we are saying it should be age. For domestic workers, we say they can put a clause that for avoidance of doubt, when it comes to domestic workers, only adults should be employed as domestic workers. People are there who are looking for jobs. And someone is going to make an argument, will I afford an adult? Yes, you will have to afford the adult if that's what is on the market, you know? So that we're able to protect these children. Because children can start working, but in light work.
Yes. And
domestic work, the work done within domestic work is not light work. It isn't.
How about the issue of surrogate mothers? I find this very contentious because, first of all, we are not so used to the surrogacy thing in Uganda. That is one. And you speak so strongly on this point here when it comes to surrogacy. Why? Why surrogacy? Why surrogate mothers?
Actually, there are two things that I speak strongly about. Surrogacy, mothers who are giving birth through that surrogacy process, and also mothers and parents who are giving birth through adoption. You know, in Uganda or in African setting, there is no woman who doesn't want to carry their own child. But it reaches a point when they have tried all possible ways, but this person cannot carry their own. But the child knows. But me, I'll be paid, because that is an argument of where I carry for pay. I'm paid. And then once I give birth, that is it. I go off. So yeah, we have such mothers.
Under domestic work?
No, not under domestic work, but generally. Generally. Because the bill is talking about generally female workers who are giving birth through, because the section 56 of the Employment Act of 2006, it talks about maternity leave and saying a female employee who has given birth.
Meaning,
now the question is, what is giving birth? I can give birth myself. I can give birth through surrogacy. I can give birth through adoption. So, but the provisions on under section 56, they are silent when it comes to those other forms. They are looking at this form of giving birth, me as a person, as the employee, but I can have a child, because why we take leave is to bond also with a young ones, with a baby. Yes. So we are saying at least there should be some, maybe not like the one who has given birth themselves, but they should be given some time also to go and bond and be with this child as the child comes into, is taking up the role of being a parent is difficult.
So this is about the mother who actually owns the child, not the one who carried the baby.
No.
I understand now.
Yeah.
I think that's what I did get at first.
Actually,
it's about the mother, the real mother.
It's the real mother. Who,
much as they did get to carry the baby for 9 months.
For the 9 months.
But they need that time.
Yeah, they need that time. Yeah. They even need time to be in the hospital, by the way.
Exactly.
When the surrogate person is giving birth, you should be there, because you're going to receive the baby.
Your baby.
It's yours. Can I tell you, when the surrogate person is going for antenatal, you have to ensure they are going for antenatal. You have to ensure, because they have to protect the child at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So all that is very important. The other leave that we want to be given, which the bill is silent
Paternity
about,
leave.
not paternity, is there, it's already there.
Yes.
Immunization dates.
Mm.
In Uganda, we have compulsory immunization for children. Now, for working mothers, immunization takes place during the time we are at work. When are we supposed to take our children for immunization? And yet the government calls upon, immunization, please be there, and
And you're still at work.
And you're still at work.
Yeah.
So either people, children miss out on immunization of those things, yes, and people who don't immunize their children because they are just not able to be present to take them. So I think the bill is okay, but it can also do better.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Miss Lydia.
Yeah, and then quickly as I finish,
yes,
there's someone who asked me, where will domestic workers, if they are faced with challenges, where can they report?
Yeah.
I think the first thing is the nearest authority is the chairperson, because they work within a community setting. The homestead where they work, they are found within a community setting. So reporting to the nearest chairperson is the first point of entry into the justice system. Now, in most cases, if they are unable to handle the chairperson, they refer. They either refer them to the police or they refer them to organizations like Platform for Labor Action for representation. But if they are also able to go to the office of the labor officer in that place of the division or of the district where they are working, it's also very good. They can also go there. And then from the labor office, if it fails, then it goes to the industrial court. Yeah. But as for Platform for Labor Action, we receive these cases every day. Maybe, I don't know if I can give out our number.
Definitely.
Yes, I can give out the Airtel line. It is it's 0701 196 260.
0701
yes
196 260.
Yes,
there you have it.
Yeah, this is our Airtel line.
Yes,
so you can be able to call on it and you can get assistance. But even if you just come to our offices located in Ntinda, plot 14 Matters Lane, you will not get lost. You will be able, if you reach in Ntinda and you ask Platform for Labor Action, you can also be directed. Or if you are in Uganda, Eastern region, you can go to offices on the found at Gloro Road, near the Electoral Commission offices in Uganda district. If you're in Dira, you can also go to our offices located at the RDC in the Lira City district chambers. We are always there.
Wow, thank you so much, Lydia. Our time is fast spent. We should have more. What a wonderful discussion. Very, very grateful. So many people online, and they have really appreciated the efforts that the organization is doing, but also what you personally are doing to actually help domestic workers. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anthony, and we've been talking about domestic work, and definitely hope you enjoyed the show and had something or two to learn from Miss Lydia. And of course, I'll catch you same time, same place next time. Goodbye for now.
Smart 24, driving business.